When I first started cycling, I was told by those with more experience that the best way to get faster is to ride with those faster and stronger than yourself. You know, I agree with that. I've gotten much faster by going outside of my comfort zone and riding with people that are both stronger and faster than myself. However, like all advice, it does not mean everything must be followed to a T, because I'm sure you're aware, eventually this advice will begin to work against you. Okay, so right now it's the dead of winter, which means all of my riding is on this, the dreadful indoor trainer. At least it's dreadful to me. Over the last few months, I've been able to go from E rank all the way up to the B rank for Zwift racing. However, all of them, and I quite literally mean all of the B races I've done on Zwift, have been an absolute fight to survive. Now, fighting to survive isn't necessarily a bad thing. Being in that upper end of your power zones can do really beneficial things for you, such as increasing fatigue durability, race durability, increase your VO2 max, your anaerobic and aerobic thresholds, among a long list of other things. That is, of course, if you also combine it with Zone 2 rides and easy recovery rides. Which I want to point out I am doing. In my opinion, after suffering many B cat races, there is a limit. My goal has been to learn how to race efficiently and effectively, really begin to use my lower weight to my advantage, and focus on saving my legs until the appropriate moments. However, if your current goal is to really increase that top end and sharpen up the muscles before your crit season starts or racing season starts, doing races like this is actually quite beneficial. Okay, so let's break down where this sort of advice works. Though for me right now, it's not my plan. If this was the end of my winter training block, with my crit season right around the corner, I'd be fine using the Cat B races to basically increase my fatigue barrier. It basically becomes a group VO2 max workout. So another place I think where riding with the faster people will actually benefit and make you faster is going to be outdoor group rides. Going on group rides with people who are stronger and faster than you can be super beneficial, not only with learning how to ride in a fast group, but also you can get a lot of tips and tricks from those with the experience. I would say though, a general rule of thumb for these kind of rides is make sure you're only about 10 to 20% over your typical effort level for the type of ride you're doing. That makes sure that you're getting the benefit, but you're not super at risk at exploding and getting dropped. But I'm curious, have you seen benefits from riding with people faster than you, or have you just gotten more tired? But let me know in the comments. Now, where I find myself right now is being in a constant state of survival. This really puts my brain's thinking power into hibernation, but what I want to accomplish in these Zwift races is not only to practice my higher end power, but also to increase my racing IQ. And if I spend the whole race in a state of survival, I won't be learning anything. Trying to do this in the B rank for Zwift racing, it puts me in a state of reaction rather than anticipation. So I'm really not able to learn much. The way I look at it is I'm sort of just copying the math homework rather than actually learning how to do the math myself. I would say a strength for any cyclist would be understanding when to hang out with faster riders or ride down or even solo. I think the best way to get an understanding of this would be to ask yourself a few questions. Now, don't take this as the be-all and end-all. There's definitely a whole lot of nuance here. But the general questions I would ask myself would be, can I finish the ride? Can I recover in 24 to 48 hours? And what's the overall goal? Is this a structured training ride, or can I do this instead? Now, if the answer is sort of yes for those questions, then go for it. Go ride with that faster group instead and test your legs. And hey, if you get dropped, then it's not the end of the world. You know next time what to try instead, and hey, trial and error. Seeing where there's benefits in riding with fast people and there's also disadvantages, because I'm doing Zwift racing to increase my race IQ and get better at anticipating based moves, I'm dropping down into C rank for a couple races. So with that being said, let's hop into the race overview of stage 4 of the Tour de Zwift. So this stage is on the London 8 route. It's a little over 20 kilometers in length with just under 300 meters of elevation. That elevation is basically from Box Hill. It's around 3 kilometers, just over 4% average. The climb starts around 15 kilometers in, so it should be a fast climb, but we'll see how the group fares. So with a quick recap of the race route, let's jump into today's race. So like a lot of Zwift races, this one starts off fast. I think it's a lot of people wanting to get up to speed and get the momentum underneath. So at the beginning of the route, there were a lot of small little risers. The first one was pretty reasonable, nothing crazy, but the second one actually caused a little bit of a split. We got to the top of the climb, and as you can see right there, I panicked a little bit, so I did surge to get back on. The last thing I wanted was to miss a split this early on in the race, especially when it hasn't been super hard or difficult so far. The rest of the route up until the base of the climb was actually pretty mediocre. There wasn't really a lot of events, no one was really attacking, no crazy surges. We ended up getting to the base of the climb altogether. At the very beginning of the climb, obviously it started to stretch out a little bit. I was in the front group. I managed to stay with the top 10 guys. I tried to stay with them as much as I possibly could, but eventually the elastic band snapped. I ended up just riding my own pace, controlled up to the top, sort of thinking if they eased off and they didn't get as much of a gap, I could hopefully bridge back to them. Give me an anvil. I ended up getting to the top of the climb in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. That is actually a PB for myself. On the descent, I tried to stay on the power, but didn't end up closing that gap, but I did get joined by 2 other riders. I decided to stay with them for as much as I could. Of course, using their draft on the descents was really helpful. We came into the finish, us 3. This was a fight for basically 9th place. I ended up trying to play cat and mouse with the guy in the green jersey, trying to get him to close as many moves as possible, make him waste his own matches. Unfortunately, he had the exact same idea, clearly, and at the end of the day, he launched his sprint. I couldn't get around him, but I did get past the other third guy, and we came home with 10th place. So, all in all, I think this was actually a pretty good race for myself. Dropping down into the C category obviously made me more competitive, especially with that climb being sort of in the last third of the race. I finished in 10th place, which I'm really happy with. I also had a PB in based power for 20 minutes, which, hey, who doesn't like that? But that being said, I think it just shows staying with those riders that are faster than you, especially in a Zwift scenario, is easier said than done. But again, if you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments. Subscribing also really helps. But anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.